That it's so I look like crap, but I just want to record for 1 minute because I have to now switch into my next time block of taking care of my skin and then detangling my hair for an hour and 20 minutes. I just was in my breakfast block, and then I have this thing that I've been experiencing because I gave myself enough time. This is going to be more than a minute, where I'm like, I'm going to give myself 90 minutes for breakfast because I don't know how I'm going to feel. And if I rush myself, then I won't want to do anything. So then I'm done with breakfast, like actually eating it and like watching fun videos. And then I'm like just kind of chilling. And for the past few days, this thing has happened where like I end up having like a mental breakfast or like a spiritual breakfast or like a consciousness intelligence breakfast where some video shows up. Because I'm done watching these like fun videos that are like about random stuff that is interesting to me, and then I'm like scrolling for something more like meaty or like substantial or like something, and then yeah, for the past like 2 days, I guess, or 3 days, I've like found like a video that was like really interesting and like shocking. And so what happened was that like yesterday or the day before, I recorded and uploaded about these ideas about time and like how to understand time as a rectangle and not as an infinite ray, because as a human being you have the limit of birth and death and the limit of sleep and your energy, so it's a rectangle. And so in order to be successful as a human being, the whole point is completing certain things in time, uh, while there are forces that are acting against you to make sure that you don't do that. Like that's the basic description of like human reality, um, because you're not a robot in the sense of like if certain things don't happen, it doesn't matter to you. Like certain things, if they don't happen, it really matters to you. And so uh, I was talking about like realizing how like time, what I had to manage wasn't time, but like space or like actions or like the bulk of space that actions take. And that's what I have a hard time doing. And then I was describing how there's this app that I use called Blockos, Blocos, which sounds like block. This is relevant to what I'm trying to say right now. And how that app gives like space per 10 minutes of each hour of every day, like day to day. And then you like assign an activity or a focus to each space that like time of 10 minutes takes up, and then you can like make it as many spaces as you want. And like the second that app, like the second I found that app through intuition, I was like finally functional as far as like getting to activities and having a sense of peace and like knowing what's happening, like getting like a map of reality essentially that I can actually like move through. Okay. And I was describing how it's like time isn't really real. Time is a reference to how all the processes of, of life, like in existence, are unfolding. And it's just like time is a reference to the slice through space, and saying like each of these like myriads, like billions, trillions of processes in existence are currently at a certain phase, and you're slicing through like a specific moment, as in momentum. You're slicing through a moment. You're slicing through all those trillions and more of things that are in in motion, in flux, and time is reference to like universal, like the universal line that goes through every one of those things of like trillions of things in existence, and it's referencing every phase that every phase of everything in reality at a specific moment. That's what time is. And then it's like the next moment. Like what does moment mean? It's like there's like oh, you could think of it as a particle wave thing. Now, of course, I don't know. You don't. I don't have a degree in physics, but so like I'm just saying this intuitively. Hopefully, it's not wrong. But like the idea of like wave particle, like the idea in like I was talking to AI the other day, and I was like, I was just asking about physics questions, physics equations, because I was like, I don't know how to like jump to like being like an advanced physics predicament where I already know the foundational stuff, and now I can actually discuss like things like Schrodinger's equations. But I'm Schrodinger's equation, but I actually want to like know like now. I don't want to like wait. So I was just asking questions, and then like AI was telling me answers. We were going back and forth about stuff, like like information, like I was like asking questions. AI was giving me information. I was asking questions. AI was giving me information. So I was confused about stuff. AI was explaining things to me, and then uh, so like all of that like primed my brain to be thinking about physics and math. And then like yesterday's, I think, like breakfast mental intelligence, like intellectual like food video. I watched a bunch of videos in the past 2 days about like physics, and I've been going to sleep listening to like physics podcasts, which is so interesting. It's like, wow, like focusing on the rectangle of life and realizing, saying out loud, like one of my life completion tasks that if I don't complete, I will feel like I'm going to hell spiritually because of the pain I'll be in, is getting to a certain level of understanding higher math and physics specifically. And like I didn't plan to like watch those podcasts, but because I articulated it and because I like made it clear to myself through the explanation of the time rectangle for human life, I like am completely like automatically, without any thinking or efforting or being conscious, I'm watching like physics videos. And it's not like I'm trying to make myself or like trying to like gear myself up to like complete my life trajectory. It just kind of has been happening. So I'm like, wow, the power of articulation, the power of like articulation and like explaining like the logic of something. Like it's really powerful for your mind. That's why the God concept is like the death of the mind and of the human being, because it's the ultimate like irrational, nonsensical, the system now has to crash concept. And so it's really important to like decalcify your mind from the God concept. It's really important. Your intelligence and your abilities and your power and your brilliance and your genius, whatever yours is, it will never really like come online. It will never like activate. It will never like actually like it will never boot up until you get your mind functioning in a logical way where nothing is contradicting anything else. Okay, and the God concept is extremely full of contradiction, and it breaks your mind. It breaks your intelligence. You have to archive it. Okay, and so I was watching these physics videos, and it was talking about like the idea of like when you know how fast an electron is going, you can't know where it is, or when you know where it is, you can't know how fast it's going. And I don't know what that's called, like the official word for that in physics, but like that's like a thing. And I've heard about this. I don't have to bring it up because I studied physics before, obviously in high school, and I've heard of this, whatever. But how does this relate to what I was just saying? Oh, the time thing and the moment. It's like when you're like slicing through all of the moment and flux that's the momentum and flux that's happening, it's like the particle version. You're getting a snapshot of all the different like phases of all the different processes of trillions of things in existence, and you're getting like a snapshot of every single one of them, and that's called time. That's called like a second. That's called a nanosecond, because it's flux. It's a wave. It's everything is constantly changing. There's no such thing as static. Like there's no such thing as stillness. Like everything is constantly in motion, and so there's no way to like everything, because everything like the trees, the birds, the buildings, the like everything that is life is always moving and in some phase of something. And so like time is just like the particle capturing of like time is like what's the particle of reality right now? That's what time represents. So if you have like it's 10 a.m. and it's 3 minutes, you're talking about like from 10:03 to 10:03:59 during that like space, during that. And it's not even space though, because it's like you're referencing the flux that's happening between 10:03 00 and 10:03:59. That's a minute, but it's just like a section of flux of everything. And that's what that minute means. But like a second, 10:03:00 to 10:03:01, that 1 second is referencing the flux that has happened in everything and all the changes that have happened in everything. So it's just referencing like a specific, like, do you know what I'm saying? Like a nanosecond is referencing the flux that is happening during that specific like duration of whatever the measurement for nanosecond is. It's just it's basically referencing like from this point of like the changes that have happened in the like slice through of like everything, every phase of everything during this particular moment, the beginning of that nanosecond to the end of that nanosecond. It's referencing all the changes that have happened in all the phases of everything in existence. That's what time is referencing. That's all it is. And then when people talk about the time, blah, 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 I'm like, I don't know, because I had this realization when I was sitting in the art department buildings at the University of Chicago campus on like 60th Street on the south side of Chicago in Hyde Park. And I was sitting there and I was thinking about stuff because I had read Ayn Rand, and that was the only way that I was surviving during that time because her work killed my depression to like 20%. 80% of my depression went away, and then I was just like inspired to think because she taught me that I actually can think and I don't need the authority of someone else to verify reality. Like, she just gave me like my human dignity. She just gave me my mind's ability to exist and like function. Just no biggie. Do you know what I mean? So I would just get like a notebook. Like in the States you can buy these notebooks that are like, I bought a notebook here that kind of like mirrors that like size. But you can get these like in the States they use large notebooks. Where I grew up the notebooks are smaller. But the point is you can buy these like $1.50 notebooks. And then I would just walk around with it and I would just do thinking like about random stuff with like my colored ballpoint pens that I got also for like super cheap, but like for the sake of fun because I couldn't afford more expensive stationery. And I would just think about stuff. And one day I was sitting because I couldn't afford to my own home, and so I was living with a coworker who allowed me to live with him because he thought I was like a pretty girl and he was like an Eastern European man or like a Central European man, and he tried it once to like get sexual with me, but then like I freaked out and like ran out of the house in the middle of the night, and then after that he never tried it again. But I couldn't afford to live. I couldn't afford to pay rent because of all my depression and trauma from the assault, and I couldn't be around people because I was always crying and always really like I couldn't like be happy, and I just couldn't like work enough hours to make enough money to pay rent. And so at some point I like was about to be homeless, and I just brought up to him like if I could stay at his spare room that he used for Airbnb for a few days, and he was like, yeah, of course, because he thought I was pretty. And so like, and the fact that the fact that I was like not born in the States, like we had that in common, and so like blah blah blah. And so those few days turned into like a few weeks, and then I just ended up living there, and I would like entertain him with like conversation. You feel me? That was a horrible time because I was like, I can't afford to live. Isn't this screwed up? So I would hang out at the University of Chicago all the time because his apartment was like right next to it. And yeah, I would just go into the buildings, and I would basically like, I was really miserable and sad because I didn't get to go to college because my father mentally abused me so much that I was like, he destroyed me. Like he would just tell me for the like duration of 7 years that he never wanted me to be born, that my mother didn't